Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Cougar attack. A Fraser Valley woman badly hurt, airlifted to hospital. Also,
the mRNA vaccines are the preferred vaccine.
Mixed messaging. Questions and confusion about the rare risk of blood clots linked to 2 COVID vaccines. And
I've been keeping my fingers crossed that I would be able to receive a vaccine before our baby is born.
Pregnant people in BC now on the priority list to get vaccinated.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with a cougar attack in the Fraser Valley.
A woman is in hospital after a horrifying ordeal. Dan Burrett joins us live. Dan, how badly is she hurt?
In the last hour, the Conservation Officer Service announced she is in stable condition, thankfully, but she has been left with some very serious injuries. This was the scene close to where a cougar attacked her on her own property this morning in the Harrison Mills area. You can see the emergency tape set up across the path there. Conservation officers say a man helped chase the cougar off of her. Harrison Mills is a rural area surrounded by mountains near the Harrison River, west of Agassiz and north of Chilliwack. The victim was airlifted to hospital and has injuries to her head, face, and arms. Conservation officers sent their predator attack team to the scene, and they're still looking for that animal. They're asking people to stay away from the Weaver Creek Road area close to Harrison Lake. Encounters with cougars and people are very rare, let alone when people are attacked. BC's Environment Ministry says cougars have attacked between 2 and 3 people on average since 2010. 5 people were attacked last year, but a cougar has not killed a person in our province in more than 20 years. And we'll have any updates for you tonight at 11. Anita, Mike?
Scary stuff. Dan Burrett reporting live for us tonight. Thank you, Dan. And new details tonight on what Delta police are calling a chaotic scene.
The shooting of a correctional officer on the weekend is raising more questions than answers.
As Zara Premji tells us, police are looking into whether the victim's job played a role in the killing or if this was a case of mistaken identity.
The concerning fact was the fact that he was a corrections officer.
And that fact is something paving the way for the investigation into the death of 29-year-old Bikramdeep Singh Randhawa. He was shot and killed on Friday just before 5 p.m. in what police are describing as a chaotic scene in this parking lot.
When our officers got here, it was quite chaotic. There were close to 200 people that were in this parking lot. As a matter of fact, our officers, when they responded to the scene, they didn't know whether a suspect was potentially still in the crowd.
Delta police are calling the killing targeted. Here you can see someone running from the scene, but police are offering no clear motive as officers explore whether this was a case of mistaken identity or related to Randhawa's personal life or even his job.
We're exploring at this point in time all the particular options. It has all the markings of gang related, meaning the burned out car and how it was carried out, but certainly we can't confirm that at this point in time, but we are investigating whether it is gang related.
What's really concerning is there have been 4 public shootings in just 3 days across the Lower Mainland, and that's causing people to be on edge.
Am I next? It's just take your chances. I don't know.
I get it. They've got vendettas they're trying to deal with, but not when you're in where you can hurt people who are innocent.
It's a little frightening. I got a family to worry about.
As for the shooting that happened here in Delta, you can see Delta Police has a command post they've set up in the parking lot of Scottsdale Center where it all took place. They're looking to remind the community that they are here and to give them a sense of comfort after a brazen daylight shooting that left hundreds confused and concerned on Friday. Zara Premji, CBC News, Delta.
BC is fast-tracking COVID-19 vaccinations for pregnant women.
As Tanya Fletcher tells us, those 16 plus can start booking appointments now to be prioritized for their first dose.
It was a huge relief for me to hear that pregnant people are now eligible to receive their vaccine in BC.
Sarah Burke-Dimitrova is 32 weeks pregnant with her first child.
I've been keeping my fingers crossed that I would be able to receive a vaccine before our baby is born, due at the end of June.
She and her husband recently moved to Vancouver Island following 2 pregnancy losses and multiple fertility treatments. Having previously worked in public health in Ontario, she's been eager to get immunized as soon as possible.
I think it's been really scary to hear about pregnant people in the ICUs in Toronto, where I have colleagues and friends who are both working in the healthcare system and also who are pregnant themselves.
In fact, just a few weeks ago, Brazil began warning people to delay getting pregnant until the worst of the pandemic had passed. According to a recent global study of 2,000 people in late pregnancy, those who got hit by the virus were at a significantly higher risk of complications, including eclampsia, preterm birth, bacterial infections, even maternal death. And 1 in 8 COVID mothers gave birth to a baby that also tested positive.
So I think if there was ever a study supporting potential vaccination in pregnancy, this is it.
And so BC is following in the footsteps of other provinces, the plan now formalized to prioritize pregnancy vaccines.
We thankfully have very small numbers of pregnant women who've needed to be hospitalized or had received ICU care.
A message of reassurance paired with another.
I do also want to say that there's more and more information that we are seeing that reaffirms the safety of all of the vaccines that we have available in all stages of pregnancy.
Pregnant British Columbians 16 plus can now book a vaccine by registering online or by phone. As for Burke Dimitrova, she was able to lock in an appointment immediately.
I trusted science to help us get and stay pregnant, and I'm trusting science to keep us safe now with COVID-19.
She'll be getting her first dose next week. Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
BC's daily COVID-19 case count is still trending down as the province reports 697 new cases of the virus today. Of the active cases, 486 people are in hospital. 173 of those are in critical care. Another 32,000 people received a COVID-19 shot yesterday as BC ramps up the vaccine program with a bump in Pfizer supply. And Fraser Health is inviting frontline workers who haven't yet received a COVID-19 vaccine to book an appointment starting tomorrow. This includes licensed childcare workers, school-based staff, police and fire departments. The health region plans to complete these priority group immunizations over the next 10 days.
And public health officials are again seeking to reassure Canadians tonight.
It's over questions and confusion about rare risk of blood clots linked to 2 vaccines approved by Health Canada.
As David Cochran reports, many worry it could lead to vaccine hesitancy.
The Prime Minister is one of the 1.7 million Canadians to get the AstraZeneca vaccine. He says he doesn't regret it.
It was extremely important to me to be able to protect my loved ones, to protect my family.
Justin Trudeau and his wife, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, got their shots once AstraZeneca was made available to people over 40. The photo op was meant to reassure. It's clear there's more work to do.
And what we've said all along is that the mRNA vaccines are the preferred vaccine.
In large part because of statements like this from the National Advisory Committee on Immunization, which seemingly urges Canadians to wait for Pfizer and Moderna and skip other vaccines if offered.
So individuals need to have an informed choice to be vaccinated with the first vaccine that's available or to wait for an mRNA vaccine.
Some health experts say this is simply prudent advice.
NACI is not overstating the facts. All our vaccines are good vaccines. The reality is that the mRNA vaccines are better vaccines.
Others argue ranking vaccines will increase hesitancy.
If a vaccine is approved by Public Health Canada and approved by Dr. Russell and her team, take that shot. Ignore NACI.
And so a full dose of reassurance about AstraZeneca.
It's been a really, really effective vaccine that saved lives.
And repeated reminders that Health Canada says AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson are both safe and effective.
If you're asked to take your turn, please do so and line up. I think that's the bottom line.
The updated guidance was meant to provide clarity, but has instead caused confusion as the country battles a third wave. The federal government insists the overall approach should not change and that Canadians should still take the first vaccine that's offered to them. David Cochran, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, it looks like the Vancouver Canucks are planning to move the farm team to Abbotsford. The Canucks will relocate the club's AHL affiliate from Utica, New York to the Fraser Valley for the start of the 2021-2022 season. The intended home of the team is the Abbotsford Centre. The Canucks affiliate would have a new name, brand, and logo. Details of the partnership with the city of Abbotsford are still being finalized, and the relocation is subject to the AHL Board of Governors approval, which should come in 2 days.
Well, some people on the island believe the soaring price of lumber is behind a recent rash of tree thefts.
About 100 trees have been taken from a municipal forest reserve. As Briar Stewart reports, there are growing calls for stricter measures to deter the thieves.
This is the first tree I tripped across when I came out here, and as you can see, it's a pretty big western red cedar.
This is one of a few stumps Larry Pinn has stumbled on. This nearly 90-year-old tree was chopped down illegally.
Something like this is not being taken for firewood, that's for sure. It's a valuable tree.
Right, and these are like big slabs of wood here.
Yeah, they are. And someone really knew what they were doing. They were organized, had all the equipment, they'd done their research, they knew the spot.
The tree was part of North Cowichan's Municipal Forest Reserve, a 5,000-hectare area on the east side of Vancouver Island. The landscape here is considered endangered because of logging and development, but in this case, the tree was poached, and about 100 others have been as well since the beginning of the year.
Since we've noticed the increase in the timber theft, we've increased patrols to daily patrols in all the active areas. We've increased signage to make sure it's very clear that this activity is not permittable.
In this forest, the municipality is responsible for penalties, but when the theft happens on Crown land, enforcement rests with the province.
We rely in part on complaints from the public, and we've had over 500 of those over the last 10 years. I would say there's some indication that is increasing.
Someone caught tree poaching in BC could be fined up to $1 million, but most of the time people are just given a ticket for a few hundred, that is if they're caught at all, which is why some want to see stricter enforcement.
In North Cowichan, the municipality is considering raising its fine, which is now just $200. Not very much considering the price of lumber is up dramatically.
232% across the board, but for some woods, and particularly high value, as I say, for bespoke type projects, people will pay a lot more. So we're looking at 500% increases for some lumbers.
Isel Dobell believes there should be tougher punishment, not only to protect the trees, but deter people from driving through sensitive ecosystems to haul out lumber.
I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of outrage about this happening, and you're stealing from the community, you're stealing from Canadians, you're stealing from nature.
And she says would-be poachers should know that residents are watching these woods. Briar Stewart, CBC News, North Cowichan, BC.
The ripple effect of Metro Vancouver's white-hot real estate market is creating a surge of buying in Port Alberni. That's the most affordable market on Vancouver Island. The mayor saying buyers are coming from Vancouver, Victoria, and Alberta.
I'm hearing every day that they're moving here by choice. They're moving here for lifestyle. Affordability is a side benefit, but that gap is closing.
The benchmark price for a property in Port Alberni is $417,000. Sales rose 318% over the last year at this time, and home prices are up 20%. Experts say the trend isn't expected to slow down until at least 2022.
Well, you may have noticed significant traffic disruptions in Metro Vancouver over the past few days.
Climate protesters from the group Extinction Rebellion are in the midst of a 5-day string of demonstrations targeting major roads.
But as John Hernandez reports, some say their efforts could also be working against them.
From the Granville Street Bridge to the Lions Gate, the first few days of May in Vancouver have been filled with picket signs, traffic jams, and arrests.
There's a bunch of people here standing up for the climate, standing up for the planet and all of life.
They're calling it the Spring Rebellion, a series of protests organized by the group Extinction Rebellion, who are demanding climate action.
We're extremely flat. We make decisions as a group.
Member Brent Eichler says the group has no hierarchy. Their tactics, a collective decision that they say is the only way to get an urgent message across.
It's obvious to me now that marching in the streets does not work and signing petitions does not work. we need to go in the streets and actively oppose and disrupt business as usual.
A message that's loud and undoubtedly capturing people's attention, but some experts say the group risks collateral damage.
Blockades of bridges has the unintended effect of maybe punishing individuals who are not largely responsible for these systemic issues. And in that way, kind of risks polarizing the support for environmental protection.
So we understand that some of the actions that we do are disruptive to ordinary people's lives. We don't revel in that, but it is a consequence of the kind of dire situation that we are in.
And there's the added criticism of a lack of diversity. Even group members will admit that the people who show up to these events tend to be white and middle class.
We're trying to become more diverse, but I would say that it is an issue for us.
But attendance might not tell the whole picture when it comes to support for the movement as a whole.
When there's these kinds of protests where there's the risk of getting arrested, there's lots of people who are not willing to put themselves in that kind of position for various reasons, but they still might support the group.
Cutting back on fossil fuels is something millions of Canadians are in favor of, even if not everyone agrees on how to get there. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
Time now for a look at the weather with meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe. But first, I must wish you a happy May the 4th. May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you too as well.
So I today purposely wore black so that Mike could pick out any tie that he wanted to. And of course, he picked out one for the occasion.
Well, it comes out of the wardrobe once a year, right? But you have to look very
Don't
closely.
even tell me.
Can you see
Very
it?
subtle.
Those are
Very
baby
subtle.
Yodas.
Look at the little Yodas. Oh,
A
Yodas.
paisley, is that a paisley
Yes.
Yoda?
A
Okay.
paisley Yoda,
But the best part about this tie is that I looked at it when Mike was ordering it, and neither of us saw the Yodas on the tie until it came.
Yes.
This is fantastic. I mean, if there was ever a day to wear it,
Yeah.
it's
Well, the question
today.
is
I
now,
commend you.
what do you wear tomorrow for Cinco de Mayo?
Oh,
I can't wait.
You have a fun tie for that one.
Yeah, no pressure. And Anita, I do like the Darth Vader black. I think you went for a theme as well. Yeah, I'm hoping that Ewoks pop out of the Forest of Endor at any
Oh.
moment. Yeah. So yes, keep your eye Ewok watch behind me. Meanwhile, it was a great day for whatever outdoor getup you were in, and I did spot several Darth Vaders. Take a look at the current temperatures out there. We were sunny and just about seasonal across the South Coast, although we're going to be talking a lot more about seasonal later on in the show. 14 at YVR right now. High pressure is quickly moving across the province, clearing those skies out. It's a fast-moving succession of systems, so we get to keep the warm temperatures thanks to a southwesterly flow for tomorrow. But this system is going to bring us cloud cover for your Wednesday. So we don't get the blue skies we saw today, but we do stay dry, and we're much warmer for our midweek check-in. And Thursday is going to be showery. But look at these temperatures forecasted for tomorrow across the lower mainland. Low 20s, not out of the question. It is going to feel like a taste of summer out there. But yes, increasing clouds, and I do have to get us through the showers to end the week. And we're going to be talking a lot more about how this compares to seasonals later on.
All right, thanks, Joe. Well, many people watch CBC Vancouver News live on the free CBC Gem app.
Yes, check it out if you haven't already. CBC Vancouver is also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.
After weeks of mounting numbers, Alberta is facing much stricter restrictions. What Stop the Spike means for them next. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. Well, 2 hikers in St. John's are stepping up to do something about all the garbage piling up on their favorite trail.
As Jeremy Eaton reports, the couple is speaking out, encouraging others to stop littering at historic Signal Hill.
Jennifer and Nick Chernichan love hiking Signal Hill. They're on the trail twice a week. Some days, though, they spend more time bent over than upright.
A little bit disappointing in a sense. Like, it's such a beautiful spot and we're so lucky to live here. I mean, we talk all the time, you know, we come up here twice a week, and it's such a beautiful spot, and it does take away from that.
The biggest culprits, dog poop bags, paper coffee cups, and lots of discarded tissues.
That's what the shocking thing is, coming here and seeing, like, I just don't understand how there's so much trash at a historic site, especially.
The two moved to St. John's from Calgary 3 years ago and hike the trail year-round. But they can only do so much.
But we could do more. We just don't always want to be carrying a bag of trash when we're hiking.
We got some beer cans.
The couple has been in contact with Parks Canada about the problem. The agency who oversees the parks in this province isn't too pleased with what it's seeing as well. Back in March, they took to social media themselves, showing trash picked up in Terra Nova National Park. A spokesperson for the group says litter can disrupt local wildlife, making it harmful for those using the park. Tossing trash also violates the National Parks Act, which can result in fines. Parks Canada is urging people to leave no trace when using any of its sites and trails. The Chernachans would like to see more signs saying that.
At the very top, at the start of the North Head Trail, there's no signs about, like, you know, do your part, or don't leave bags, even if they're disposable, don't leave the bags lying around.
But it's not just here. Social media has been filling up the last few weeks with people posting pics of cleanups across the province. While wind and weather may be to blame for some trash lying around, it's a people-created problem.
Taking ownership as individuals and then doing your part when you see it to just pick it up. And you don't have to pick up everything. You don't have to carry garbage bags around, but picking up the odd can, picking up the odd Mary Brown's container or Tim Hortons cup, that makes all the difference, right?
The Chernachans and Parks Canada both agree that this is not everybody. It's just a few bad apples, a little too lazy to pack out what they pack in. We've seen multiple comments online today from other people who are doing this exact same thing. Now, everyone involved in this would hope that folks will take ownership of the sites in the province so that other people aren't left carrying the garbage bag. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, St. John's.
6:21. Lovely Tuesday evening. There's a live shot. Downtown Vancouver looking across to the North Shore Mountains tonight. Lots more still to come. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Tough new restrictions have just been announced in Alberta.
The province now has the highest COVID case rate in Canada. As Carolyn Dunn reports, there are questions about how all the new rules will be enforced.
After treatment for breast cancer, Jennifer Hutchinson was ready for the next step, a hysterectomy to keep her hormone-fueled cancer from returning. With surgeries already canceled due to COVID, her doctors simply couldn't book it.
Well, it's scary for sure. I think, as it goes on and as our hospitals and healthcare workers are more and more overwhelmed, I think, if my cancer returned, would I be able to get care?
There are growing concerns about resources for COVID patients too, and plans to expand intensive care units, because that may not solve the problem.
We don't have the staff to manage 425 ICU beds with the expertise needed to look after these really sick patients that are on multiple life support machines.
So, tonight, Alberta announced new public health measures. Among them, all students from kindergarten to grade 12 will move to remote learning for 3 weeks. Personal services like salons will be shut down again, and retail capacity will go down to 10%. Outdoor patios will also close.
So let me be clear. We will not permit our healthcare system to be overwhelmed. We must not and we will not force our doctors and nurses to decide who gets care and who doesn't.
Critics say new rules won't work if they're not enforced. So people were stunned when Calgary's police chief explained how far they'd been told not to go.
Our partners at the province have asked us not to fill the courts. with $100 mask bylaw tickets and to be more strategic in the enforcement. So we've done that.
Before last weekend's unsanctioned rodeo, town officials raised the alarm with the province. Alberta Health Services only sent organizers a warning letter.
It's just like roughing a hockey game. If you're not going to blow the whistle and give a penalty when an infraction occurs, then what's the point of having the rule there?
A grim milestone for India today, recording more than 20 million cases of COVID-19 and more than 220,000 deaths. Many countries are trying to help with supply shortages. A U.S. military aircraft arrived in New Delhi today with more than 500 oxygen canisters, the latest shipments of aid from the U.S. That comes as a ban on direct flights from India to the U.S. went into effect today. Across India, millions lined up for the chance to get a vaccine, but some centers had to shut down, running out of doses. Government estimates suggest less than 10% of the eligible population has received a shot, and less than 2% are fully vaccinated.
Now, the international community did have a plan for equitable access to vaccines.
But as Vicadopia reports, that's not how it's playing out around the world.
A renewed vaccination push in the face of disaster. India, which helped Canada with its vaccine supply, is now itself in need, like so many other developing countries.
Just over 1 in 3 people in Canada has received at least 1 dose of a vaccine. That's compared to less than 1 in 100 in low-income countries. That's vaccine inequity.
That inequity is stark. Israel, the US, UK, and Canada have made huge strides towards vaccinating their citizens, while Ukraine, the Philippines, Pakistan, Venezuela, Egypt, and Nigeria are just starting. The global initiative COVAX was supposed to prevent this inequity from happening by coordinating a fair distribution of vaccines. Some wealthy countries are starting to share. Sweden, Portugal, France, and New Zealand are together donating millions of doses to COVAX, despite vaccinating less of their own populations than Canada.
Well, we haven't been hoarding them.
At the summit of the world's most advanced economies, the Foreign Affairs Minister defends Canada's decision to hold off sharing its vaccines with the world, despite requesting almost 2 million doses from COVAX in February, the only G7 country to ask.
We will be in a position in due course to be able to say, okay, now we are in a situation where we have we're confident that we have a surplus.
It's a farce how we are distributing the vaccines right now.
This infectious disease doctor has harsh words for Canada, which, despite donating money to COVAX, he says should do more.
I could grade it as a D-, I'll say. It's not an F because at least they're talking about equity.
He warns no single country is fully protected unless all are protected. Vicadopia, CBC News, Toronto.
In his first Canadian interview with an exclusive with the CBC's Power and Politics, the CEO and co-founder of BioNTech says he is confident the vaccine will be approved for younger children.
He also explains why he's not too worried about variants of the virus.
So far, we do not have any evidence that our vaccine would not work against any of the prevalent variants.
Which is amazing. Yeah, I was just going to say, it is amazing to hear that because, you know, I think in some ways I have this nightmare that we will get to a point where we immunize everybody with the various vaccines that are out there, and then some variant will pop up against which the variants are not effective. Do you have that kind of a worry?
No, not really. So we know, of course, that this virus is mutating, but this is not surprising. Viruses mutate and evolve. Yeah. On the other side, the mutation rate of this virus is not extremely high. So it is still, even though some of the variants have 10, 12, 13 mutations in the spike protein, more than 98% of the spike protein is still the same.
And you can watch that full interview on CBC Gem.
least 23 people are dead after a subway overpass collapsed in Mexico City. Crews are looking through mangled metal for more victims.
As Sasha Petrusek reports, others are seeking answers for what caused the deadly accident.
More than 12 hours after the crash, rescuers are still scouring the wreckage and engineers securing the subway. Huge, brightly colored train cars suspended by cranes several stories above the ground. Bits of track and crumbled cement pillars scattered below. They're trying to move the carriages to make them more stable, says the lead volunteer at the scene. The crash happened around 10:30 last night on Mexico City's newest metro line, the so-called Golden Number 12. CCTV footage shows an elevated portion collapse onto the traffic of a busy street below, throwing up clouds of debris. Social media posts by those on the scene capture a rush to rescue. Open it, smash it, open it with something, says one man, as others pry at subway doors and try to pull drivers from flattened cars. This morning, many in Mexico suspect shoddy construction and corruption among those who built the transit line. Sincero a los familiares. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador offered his condolences to the families of those killed and promised a complete investigation. Sasha Petrusek, CBC News, Toronto.
A CBC investigation has uncovered new details about a man who ran for the People's Party of Canada.
Trevor Wokes campaigned on traditional family values, but the investigation found out he also runs massage parlors that offer sexual encounters.
Jeff Leo reports that includes one in his Saskatchewan home.
Trevor Wokes is vocal about his political views, having run for the People's Party of Canada in the last federal election, promoting traditional family values. He's also publicly attacked the Saskatchewan government's handling of COVID restrictions and helped organize a protest at the home of Saskatchewan's chief medical health officer. But when it comes to the massage parlor in his own home, he's more measured.
There's a stigma attached to these businesses in town, and people don't like it. So I don't flaunt it.
Acting on a tip, CBC began investigating a massage parlor connected to Wokes' home earlier this year. An undercover reporter, responding to an online ad, started texting a woman named Lily. In the course of the conversation, she offered the reporter sex in exchange for payment, and she invited the reporter to Wokes' home on Victoria Avenue. In an interview, CBC asked Wokes about that exchange.
Do you know somebody who goes by the name of Lily?
Yes.
Who's that?
That's my wife.
I thought your wife's name was Judy.
It is. Marketing, she's Lily. That's my wife, she's Judy.
Wokes acknowledges his wife offered sex for sale, but he insists it was false advertising.
I can guarantee you, my wife does not provide sexual services.
Wokes says he helps manage a dozen massage parlors in Regina, and he says they are being unfairly targeted by the city, which has deemed many of them to be places where sex is for sale. He says that's not true, at least as far as he knows.
I'm not in the room. I don't have cameras in the rooms. I can neither prove if they do or they don't.
City administration is getting set to enforce the new bylaw aimed at regulating so-called body rub establishments. But Wokes says he's doing nothing wrong, and he's prepared to fight the new bylaw in court. Jeff Leo, CBC News, Regina.
They arrived back in Canada, but they're not following the quarantine rules. Why they don't seem to have much teeth, just ahead.
With Expo 86 officially opened in Vancouver, the Prince and Princess of Wales now have some time to explore the rest of British Columbia. The royal couple made some stops today in the interior of BC. And as Alison Smith reports, the romance with the royals isn't over.
BC's Premier Bill Bennett must have been pleased. He brought Diana, the Princess of Wales, and Prince Charles to his hometown, Kelowna. And it stopped raining, and for the first time on this royal visit, the sun broke through. For the people of Kelowna, the civic ceremonies were just the excuse. It was that royal event, the walkabout, they came for, a chance to get a close-up look at the princess. Some were impressed.
It was awesome.
So awesome, it made some people shaky.
Yes, I was shaking more when I came back and sat down after talking to Princess.
Every town and city that welcomes the royal couple does its best to entertain them. In Kamloops this afternoon, it was a mounted drill team. And a children's choir that got a little lost in the crowd. But no matter what the entertainment, it was Diana who was the real attraction. Have you ever seen a princess before?
Yeah, I saw Princess Anne.
And is this as much fun?
It's funner.
Today was a day without a lot of ceremony, a chance for the royal couple to meet the people of BC. And for those people in Kelowna and Kamloops, it seemed it was the prince and especially the princess who made the sun shine. Alison Smith, CBC News, Kamloops.
Finally, in the news portion of our broadcast, the royal tour through British Columbia. Today, the Prince and Princess of Wales were in Prince George. And in a speech to the crowd, Prince Charles shared some of his philosophical thoughts on life. Paul Workman reports.
Today, Charles and Diana charmed their way through a city that has a royal name and plenty of royalists to prove it.
Yeah, I just moved my hand out and had a nice shake with them. Real proud.
He's got his
Silver Jubilee socks. Check that. There were royal socks in waiting, royal ties in waiting.
Signifies that you're in the Monarchist League.
And are you?
No.
And royal signs in waiting.
Diana is divine, but Charlie is my darling.
This was perhaps the most relaxed day yet on the royal tour. There were a few official functions, but also lots of mingling, especially with senior citizens. And there were some humorous moments as well, when the royal couple helped plant a tree on the lawn of City Hall.
Who are you trying to impress? The Premier?
All of it. All of it. You want it all in. But the crowd may also have been taken aback by Prince Charles' speech, where he talked philosophically about life and striving for an inner peace.
And we must strive, if we can, to make living into an art itself, although it will always remain a tremendous struggle.
Here are some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News. A Fraser Valley woman is in hospital, badly hurt after being attacked by a cougar. It happened early this morning on her remote property near Agassiz. The woman's injuries are considered serious.
All our vaccines are good vaccines. The reality is that the mRNA vaccines are better vaccines.
Confusion about the rare risk of blood clots linked to two vaccines. Health officials are trying to reassure people all 4 approved vaccines are safe.
It was a huge relief for me to hear that pregnant people are now eligible to receive their vaccine in BC. I've been keeping my fingers crossed that I would be able to receive a vaccine before our baby is born.
All pregnant people who are age 60 and plus can now get a COVID-19 shot. They're now on BC's vaccine priority list.
The number of travelers flying into Canada and refusing to stay in quarantine hotels continues to grow.
And as Susanna De Silva tells us, CBC News has learned public health officials may not even be keeping track of all of them for fines or follow-up.
Je refuse la quarantaine et le test.
Cynthia Vignola recorded herself refusing both the COVID test
Parce que j'ai le droit, exactement. Merci, c'est gentil.
and to stay at a quarantine hotel after a vacation in Colombia.
Me, I live in the countryside, so I think it's better for me to go home without neighborhood, without other people, than go in a hotel with bad organization.
When CBC asked the Public Health Agency of Canada how many people had done this, a spokesperson admitted that PHAC has no idea.
Vignola was promised a fine in the mail. That was 6 weeks ago.
I didn't receive nothing. No calls, no other tests. nothing.
PHAC says 513 people have gotten tickets for refusing, but those are only for travelers landing in Vancouver and Toronto. As for Montreal and Calgary, talk to local officials, PHAC says, because enforcement falls under local jurisdiction. While Quebec prosecutors told CBC no tickets have been given there, and Calgary police say they haven't issued any fines either. Snowbird Alan Prout returned from Mexico a week ago. He too says he felt safer quarantining at home in Saskatchewan. He hasn't received a ticket yet.
I think it's like a jigsaw puzzle missing pieces. It was poorly thought out.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was asked about enforcement today.
We certainly hope that there will be a greater access to data that can reassure people that those fines are indeed being applied and enforced everywhere across the country.
This infectious diseases specialist says it is important for Canadians to see equal consequences.
If you don't enforce it for everybody, then it becomes kind of a pointless program.
The leader of the NDP calls the current approach a failure.
The international travel question is a serious one because it does introduce new variants.
Meanwhile, since posting her videos, Cynthia Vignola says she gets asked weekly for information by people looking to do the same. Susanna De Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
That shows just how quickly the world is warming. What a new normal might look like coming up.
Just coming up on 20 to 7 Tuesday night, a beautiful Tuesday night. And a nice evening, a look at Science World there. Will we get more of the same tomorrow? Well, we're going to find out from Johanna next.
When your backyard is burning, is anywhere safe? I'm Adrienne Lamb, the host of a new podcast, World on Fire. Join us on the front lines of wildfires burning around the world. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
Could there be a new normal when it comes to weather and climate change?
Cameron McIntosh walks us through what a new U.S. report reveals and what it could mean for our country.
8 degrees in Winnipeg. A little cool, but for early May, not too bad. Right in the range of what's considered normal.
The ground's still a bit cold. We're still getting minus temperatures at night.
Still, last couple of years, Eric Stobie has been getting into his garden plot a little earlier. Not drastic change, but
things are changing, you know, especially the weather, and the growing season seems to be extending a wee bit.
So who decides what's a normal temperature? Forecasters, meteorologists, TV weather people all use an international standard based on a 30-year average, normals. In Canada, normal is determined by data between 1981 and 2010. That's currently under revision. In the meantime, the United States just updated its normals.
We're definitely in the last 2 cycles considerably warmer than in the 20th century as a whole.
According to data gathered by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, most of the U.S. saw a 10-year rise of average temperatures, in some places as high as 1.5 degrees, with more extreme weather as the western U.S. gets drier and the eastern U.S. gets wetter.
We actually see the signature, the fingerprint of climate change as it's ongoing.
The NOAA analysis produced for the U.S. Is very much in line with what we're seeing across other countries and other regions.
Including Canada, where consensus is climate change is working at a much faster pace.
We update normals for Canada, we can expect to see some pretty dramatic warming.
Back in the garden plot, the hope is just for a good growing season.
We shall see. Summer still to come.
Canada is expected to update its normals next year. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And Johanna Wagstaffe back with us now. What stands out for you in this U.S. report, Joe?
Well, as Cam mentioned, meteorologists, particularly broadcast meteorologists, are taking hold of this data the most. In fact, warm is the new norm. That hashtag was trending south of the border as U.S. broadcast meteorologists today shared the updated normals, because for me, that's one of the tools I have when I'm sharing the forecast temperatures, the forecast precipitation for all of you. That's one of the tools I have to put it into context and also to help translate climate change, because that baseline is shifting. So we are waiting for our update north of the border, as we heard from Cam, hopefully next year. But I did take a look at some of the numbers south of the border. First of all, I want to show you the graphic, the big update from NOAA today. This is from Climate Central. You can see on the left, these are the changes from the turn of the century all the way to 2020. And then on the right, just the changes in the past decade. Now, these temperatures in Fahrenheit, but overall, we saw 1/4 degree Celsius change across the U.S. And taking a look at some of the numbers just south of our border, so some of the Washington cities and communities just south of British Columbia, they have already in the past decade seen upwards of a 1/4 to 1/2 degree Celsius change, an uptick in drier and hotter summers, certainly we've been seeing, and an uptick in big snow events. So certainly trends that will be seen, and I'll be watching that one closely as we get close to that update. But another interesting fact I saw, Fairbanks, Alaska, no longer subarctic. The climate has changed so much in Fairbanks that it is now considered a continental summer location. So it'll be really interesting to see what kind of changes we see across Canada. And with that note, let's take a look at our weather and compare it to some of our 1981 to 2010 averages. We spoke earlier about high pressure bringing us the seasonal weather. That high pressure is tracking across the Rockies, and we do have this rainmaker for Thursday. But dry and cloudy and warm is the name of the game for our Wednesday weather. Right here you can see by Thursday, already getting the showers rolling in. Lots of summer weather across the province for tomorrow. 18 in Victoria. I think we'll hit an 18 here in Vancouver as well. Interestingly, That's the seasonal, again, based on our 30-year average. I looked back at the 1940 to 1970 average. That seasonal 18 would be a 12. That was the seasonal average for this time of the year. So you can see what a change we're dealing with already in the past century. Looking at how things warm up as we head into Thursday, temperatures will be approaching the high 20s for the southern interior. Not out of the question that we could see a 27 and through Osoyoos. Temperatures climbing right across the province. This would be above our seasonal. See how useful these baselines are? 18 for Wednesday, and then temperatures come down on Thursday as that Pacific system rolls in, I should say. It looked earlier this week that it might be a windy system, so possibly seeing some breeze, not the big storm we were looking at. That's actually going to be bullseyeing up towards Haida Gwaii. As we head into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I know all eyes always on the weekend, whatever that weekend is for you. A mixed bag at this point. We sort of get behind that Thursday system and end off with a west to east flow, which never means all blue skies, but never complete washout. So I'll see what kind of windows I can find as we get a bit closer. But in the meantime, Mike and Anita will enjoy the dry, cloudy, and above seasonal Wednesday.
Yes, we will. Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Well, a year after a wildfire destroyed more than 84,000 hectares of land in Colorado, some of those ashes are being turned into art. The packages are from artists who were sent pieces of burnt wood from the fire. Some of their works have just a speck of ash. Others are created entirely from it. All 100 pieces are going to be auctioned off next week, and the money will go to volunteer fire departments in northern Colorado that helped fight the flames last year.
Okay, there's pet therapy, art therapy, music therapy. How about equine therapy? I'll show you why they're not horsing around next.
We're all adapting every day on this road back to normal, or whatever the new normal will be. And at CBC Vancouver, we're adapting too. So you won't hear the same story every day.
But we all have to move carefully.
As life changes from day to day and week to week, we'll keep you connected to your community with news and top stories.
Good evening. The images.
Stay safe at home and out there.
It's a welding skills competition. The students will put together a compilation of various pieces they got some beveling to do. They got some different applications they need to change from one welding process to another. They weld with stick with the electrodes, and then they'll be welding with wire. So, and then they'll make this little box. They have to weld around in a circle around objects.
It's kind of nice to hear that he wants me to be in the skills competition, and it kind of gives me that challenge to do and to work something out for my future and really see what my abilities can show me.
Are you nervous at all?
Oh yeah, 100% nervous. Yeah.
It means a lot because normally I wouldn't compete in something like this, but JJ pushed me to overstep my boundaries a little bit, and I'm definitely more confident than I would have been otherwise if I wasn't in the competition.
And so we're just going to take the bandsaw and cut down here. At first, they had no idea they were going to be interested into this, and both of them have really fallen in love with welding, and it's kind of redirected them as to where they want to go with things. Yeah, so they're going to follow up with going to likely MBCC and learn to weld more, better.
Really, it was just like working with my hands, getting down and dirty, kind of learning things that I really want to do in life. And the trades is really a big thing for me to learn and grow as a future. I hope to be a millwright, and millwright involves a lot of welding and working with your hands, like I said. And I really enjoy the welding part of the millwright.
I just knew a lot of my friends were doing it. I didn't think I'd get too heavy into it, but I can't not work with my hands, so I just can't sit at a desk for a long time, so it really intrigued me. And it's a Mr. Jameson class, so that's what drew me in, really.
Like I said, I'm going to have some standouts, and some of them that will be kind of just be a good experience for them. You learn by observing as well, so they'll watch our standouts perform, and you know, it's a good experience for even somebody who's not necessarily going to follow up and go to community college. They'll actually have these skills, and they might use them at home. You know? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
CBC Vancouver is a proud returning sponsor of the 20th annual DOXA Documentary Film Festival. Get your tickets and watch amazing films from the comfort of your own home, May 6th to 16th. Learn more at doxafestival.ca. And the CBC News Vancouver team wants to see your beautiful photos of beautiful British Columbia. Email your photos to bcphotos@cbc.ca for your chance to be featured.
To Newfoundland now, where they're using horses to try to help people with their mental health.
As Garrett Barry reports, the therapy is aimed at people facing a tough time in their lives.
The road to recovery can be a long one.
Within the last year, I was diagnosed with PTSD. I was in a really bad car accident going to work about 5 years ago, and everything just kind of came bubbling up within the last year.
And sometimes you need some help. Some big help.
He's so calm, so gentle. He's like a big bunny rabbit.
Meet Buddy.
Yeah, big girl.
15 years old and 1,500 pounds. Since last summer, Rice has learned to care for him, ride with him, and feel comfortable around him.
Having like a 1,500 or 1,600 pound animal trust you that you're going to keep them safe, they trust you and you trust them. It's amazing.
These days, she's spreading that joy. With Buddy and all the other horses at the stable way.
When we're working with the horses, I'll say, so the fact that this horse wants to be by you, you can see they're relaxing around you. It means that they trust you and they feel your confidence.
There's just something about these animals.
Horses live at the moment. They don't live for tomorrow. They don't think about tomorrow. They think about, do they have enough food right now? Are they in a safe environment? And if we can take people to help break their worry up, because they've been worrying all along, just give you an hour of learning how a horse does it, can help you start to change some of your way of thinking.
In the last few months, this support group has grown and grown.
Well, I think everybody right now is suffering. Every person in the world has some problem with everything that's on the go. So we found that the horses were helping us, and they all said, let's get together, let's put the program in that we want to help everyone.
Some benefits are obvious. There's time outside with new friends, but there's also some magic.
Well, we have seen circumstances where we've brought the client out to meet the horses, and then a specific horse will actually walk up to the client and nudge them and nuzzle them, and it's quite obvious that they want to spend time with that person.
And as for Rice, she and Buddy are just getting started.
I told Kathy that if she sells them tomorrow, I buy them, but long shot. And I already told my husband that we'll buy eventually. To prepare for that.
Garrett Barry, CBC News, Grand Falls, Windsor.
Really great program. I did a story a few years ago on a very similar program in Richmond and saw firsthand how it was helping a lot of people, particularly those who have had addiction issues as well, and it's really great.
Yeah, different kind of therapy, but that's nice to see that. Okay, I think it's fair to say many of us have had a pandemic birthday, right?
Yes, a few weeks ago.
Maybe celebrating with family and friends at a distance, and they don't count, by the way. The pandemic birthdays, you just stay where
Oh,
you were
really?
before the
Okay,
pandemic.
great. Thanks for letting me know. Well, one Vancouver man decided to rock the boat and do something a little different for his partner this year. Take a look.
I was touched that everyone would show up and bother to do that, and that he organized that. I was pretty warm and fuzzy for a few days.
I would be warm and fuzzy too. That's such a nice gesture.
Why not? Exactly. Happy birthday to everybody who's had a birthday during the pandemic, but remember, they don't count.
All right, that is it for our program tonight. You can always catch it online, cbc.ca/BC.
Our next local news right here, 11 o'clock, Dan Burrett after the National. Thanks for watching. Have a great Tuesday night.